Thank you for joining us this evening for the February 8th, 2024 Monte Sereno Better Streets Commission regular meeting. Before the meeting is called to order, I would like to point out a few house rules to assist the commission, staff, and members of the public to successfully participate in this meeting. For today's meeting, Zoom is being used to allow public participation with the Better Streets Commission regular meeting. For those using Zoom to participate, there are two icons, chat and raise hand. Please use chat only to report technical issues such as being unable to hear a commissioner speaking. Please use raise hand to be recognized by the chair and enable to speak to the commission. Only attendees using Zoom application can use the raise hand option to comment. Participants calling in from a telephone will only be able to listen and cannot provide feedback or public comment. Lastly, when we're not all in the same room, all votes must be taken by roll call, but not in this case. Everybody's here.
Okay, thank you, Boise. I will now call to order the Better Streets Commission meeting for February 8th, 2024. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Villalobos?
Present.
Commissioner Nazarola? Present. Commissioner Chapin?
Here.
Commissioner White?
Present.
And Chair Lawler?
Present. All right, thank you. Are there any changes to the orders of the day? Assuming not. We will move on to oral communications. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on an item not on the agenda?
No hands are raised.
All right. Do we have any written communications?
None received on my end. Did you receive anything, Daryl?
No.
No, I have
Okay.
not.
All right, then, moving on to unfinished business and new business. First, we would like to welcome our new commissioner, Steve White.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for
Nice meeting all of you.
joining our commission. And yeah, it'll be a great year. I'm looking forward to it. And so now, of course, is the time where we elect a new chair and vice chair. So would anybody like to make a motion to elect the new chair? We'll start with Chair. Yes.
I'd like to nominate Liz Lawler.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right. Any other nominations at this time? No. All right. Then we'll have a roll call vote.
We can actually do a raise of hands.
Raise your hands, even better.
Yes.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
I
Thank you. The ayes have it.
5-0. Thank you.
All right. Moving on to nomination of the vice chair for the committee. I nominate Barry.
Would somebody else like a turn?
I'm a rookie, so.
All right. All right.
I'll accept.
Do I have a second? Okay, we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Great. Okay, moving on. Minutes for the approval of the minutes for August 10th, Better Streets Commission meeting. Are there any council members, commissioners with any questions regarding the minutes? All right, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a
Oh.
motion.
Sorry, I need to open it to public comments.
Yes. Then no hands are raised.
All right, thank you. I now close public comments. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion. We approve the minutes as written.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Only gonna abstain because I have not listened to it or.
Okay, so
4-1.
Yes.
4-0 with
4-0-1.
4-0-1.
Abstain. Yeah.
Okay. Item number 3, 2024 annual pavement improvement project. Daryl, may we have your report, please?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry I couldn't be there tonight with everybody, but I had a previous commitment with my son competing in a collegiate meet here tomorrow, so I had to head north. But I'm glad to see you all tonight. Glad you could all make it. Tonight we're gonna kind of just do a brief of the projects that we've done last year and some of the projects we have upcoming, and maybe get some input from you folks as well through the process here. So we'll review the 2024 annual pavement improvement project list here, and I'm going to start out with a little bit of background information. Basically, the city receives a couple of different types of funding each year. It's Measure B funds and SB1 funds, and they require a submission of a project list prior to fund allocation, which we have done in early spring, and an expenditure report for post-construction. The project list does not limit flexible use of the funds, provided that the funds are only used for eligible projects. The city can fund projects in a given year not on the project list or not fund projects that were on a separate project. So basically, we have to get this list approved first before we can construct these streets or approve these streets. We can't come up with a new one at the last minute and add it to the list. For fiscal year 23-24, the city we expended our funds on the Constitution Avenue. Hopefully you've all had a chance to go out there and take a look at that. That project turned out really well. Curb and gutter, asphalt replacement, some slurry seals, relocating mailboxes, removing and reinstalling driveway approaches. A lot of work out there that actually turned out really well. We actually did some storm drainage work out there as well. We also did quite a bit of work up on Greenwood. If you saw that too, that was basically a slurry seal application up there, and definitely improved that with striping afterwards as well. Next, I have the city received an annual pavement management program report. This is basically a list of all of our streets throughout the city, and it rates them on the quality that each one of them are in, from 100 at the best, 0 at the worst. And we basically take that list and we pick from that list of which ones we need to provide application and maintenance on to get that value up closer to a 70 to an 80 type number. Our goal for the city is to try to stay in the 70s, which is a good rating for streets. Right now, I'll show you a little bit later, we're at a 72 rating right now, which is good. But we'll pick these streets and we'll provide multiple different types of applications. It can be a complete replacement of the asphalt, where we dig out the whole section and replace it. Those are very expensive, of course. There are slurry seals where we kind of cap the top of the streets with a few layers of different emulsions and what have you to keep the water from penetrating and prolonging the livelihood of the roads. And of course, there's striping that we can put in. Sometimes we'll even add bicycle striping if we're in a corridor with a lot of cyclists are in there. We also include concrete work such as curb and gutter. Not much sidewalks in town, as you're all aware of, but if that was to come to play, we'd definitely look at something like that. Let's see, what else do we have here? So a little bit of the analysis that I have in the report here. In 2020, the City Council approved a 5-year financing plan to raise the condition of the city streets network to a good level. That's the 75 of 100. That's our target by end of this year. Like I said, we have a 72 value right now, but we have not uploaded the improvements we've done on both Greenwood and Constitution. That's going to bump our number up, hopefully closer to that 75 goal. And it requires an investment of $1.5 million over the 5-year period. So a little over $300,000 we're spending each year on our streets to try to get them up to speed. Staff recommends this table that I have in the report below here. You scroll down for that. There's two Twin Creeks road projects you'll see in there. Those were in our list last time, but we didn't have enough funds to tackle those 2 projects, nor did we have enough money for Alexander or West Ellenwood Avenue. So we placed them back on the list, the pre-approved list this year, to try to tackle those this year. And once we have those designed and we have budgets for those, we'll see how far we can stretch our monies on those and see how many we can get taken care of this year. A note for the committee tonight, we don't have plans yet that are completed on that. We'll be developing those into this month, next month. I'd like to, once we have those developed and have some estimates on those, bring those back to you so you can take a look at that, maybe make a few comments. You may want to comment on adding an amenity here or there or what have you, extending a certain spot, or maybe you're aware of something else in that area that we need to be aware of that we should add to our plans. But once we have those plans, my intention is to bring those back to you on the next meeting, so you'll take a look at those. As far as neighborhood improvement projects, since 2017, the city has completed 3 neighborhood improvement projects. These projects have included construction of, like I said, curb and gutter, improvements for drainage, rehabilitation of the pavement surfaces. There's 1 neighborhood improvement project scheduled in the current 5. I'm not sure what that note is there. Let me get back to that. However, the Daves Avenue neighborhood improvement project is one we've had on the books for a while before I've gotten here. It's currently in design phase and consists of pavement rehabilitation on Bruce Avenue, Vista Avenue, and San Benito Way, construction of curb and gutter on Bruce and Vista Avenues, and sidewalk gap closures on Poppy Lane. The project will include permanent traffic calming improvements on Bruce Avenue. This project is scheduled for construction this next following year. We need to look at that project too. Apparently the expenses on that are quite high. So that might be something, once we do have those plans, we can discuss at the committee level as well. Any questions thus far on the report, or shall I continue?
I have a couple questions if I may.
Yeah.
The 1.5 million, is that in SB 1 or SB 2, whatever it is, and the Measure B funds? Is that where
Yes.
that comes from, or is that our money?
That's a combination of those two, yes.
Okay, it's nothing out of our general fund.
Sometimes we will, if we're short $20,000, $30,000, the council at times will go ahead and provide additional monies if they feel it's prudent to go ahead and complete a street, what have you. But the majority of that will be outside funding.
Okay, and you mentioned the Dave's Avenue Improvement Project, including Bruce. And this committee, or this commission did a lot of work on proposing safety improvements for Bruce. But since then, there's been, change in your position, a lot of turnover on this commission. Has that information gotten into this current plan, or has that been lost along the way?
I believe some of those components, if not most of them, have been incorporated, but I'd be glad to bring that back to you. And so you guys can take a look at that and maybe comment on it before we move forward.
Okay, thank you.
I have one quick question. You said the plans for Twin Creeks, the two Twin Creeks, Alexander and West Allenwood, you would have for us for the next meeting. And does that also include a estimate on those projects, on the cost?
That's what we're shooting for. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Proceed.
Okay, I added a, let's see if I can find that here. There's a PCI report. There we go. If you see there, this is the kind of report we get periodically through this program that we have that rates our streets. As you can see, as of January 1st, we have a 72 rating there. Excuse me. Our goal is to hit the 75. When we add the Constitution and Greenwood improvements, that's going to bump that number up and get closer to our target number. So this report tells us that there's 10% of our streets that are still a very poor condition that we're going to try to tackle. 49% are in very good position. PCI for a similar agency on the right there, you'll see is a 58. So we're doing much better than the average agency our size throughout California. And that's what it's spread out as far as the comparison is throughout California. So we're in the 75% percentile rank. That's pretty good. Yeah, go ahead.
When we talk about agency, are you referring to jurisdictions of similar size, like cities of 3,000 to 5,000, or what is agency?
Yeah, this one's probably less than 20,000 people. There's not many of us at our size, so I'm not sure the exact population size, but the smaller cities, yes, that's correct.
And it seems like it'd be more useful to know how we compared to our local agencies like Campbell, Saratoga, Los Gatos.
Oh yeah, that's a great question. We can those are easy numbers to bring up. So I'll bring those to our next meeting.
Thank you.
If I may add, Los Altos Hills, because they're very similar to us. Residential only, same number of population.
You got it.
Thanks.
You bet. Can we move to the next slide there?
That's the last.
That was the last one. Do we have another attachment?
No,
Was
you
that-
just.
Is that all we had? Okay. Let me kind of brief you up on a meeting we had earlier this week. We did an outreach for the Dave's F's curve. You may be familiar with that project, maybe not.
Yeah, that's in our report.
That's
That's in the
an
staff
update,
update,
yeah.
but if you,
So if you want, we can go ahead and wrap up on this one in just a moment, because Chair does need to open it for
Yeah.
public comment.
Yep, that's fine. Yep, let's do that.
all right, thank you. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on this item?
No hands are raised?
Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Any other,
I'd like to ask one more
One more
question.
question,
The 10% we have that are very poor, is
Yeah.
that, how is that correlated with the streets we're actually working on? Or is it one and the same, or?
Yeah, the remaining streets are in that batch there. Those are the ones we're trying to tackle.
Okay, and it says current PCI is 70 and January 1 is 72. Is that a data error, or what's that mean?
The 72 there is supposed to be the most current, so I believe the previous, I think what they meant to tell us was the previous report was 70. And
Okay,
and the current, the one they're just reported on is 72, so we did have a bit of an uptick on there. So it is kind of confusing there, I agree. I might ask the company if they want to change the verbiage on that.
thank you.
Yeah.
okay, if there's no other questions, is it all right if we change the orders of the day and have Daryl give us a staff report while he's on Zoom and has the presentation?
Yeah,
Would that be okay with everybody? And then we can finish up with the committee and future agenda items. Is that all right with you?
Yeah.
All right, great.
Great. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate that. This past Monday, we had a 5 o'clock meeting with the local residents on Dave's Avenue. You can see the highlighted, it's tiny on there, but the highlighted portion, I'm sure you're all aware of the S curve and the issues that we've had out there as far as safety concerns. We've had multiple accidents out there. And so the intent was to try to produce a project that would provide traffic calming options for that corridor, slow people down, make it safer for our school kids to be able to use that road there and back from school, our cyclists as well. So if we can move to the next plan there, please. There we go. Here's just kind of a blow up of some of the treatments that this plan that was designed by a traffic engineer for the city has put together. The top little design there, you see a detail for diagonal buffer hatching. You'll see that on the plan on the next sheet. Again, that kind of squeezes down the travel lanes of the street and gives a verbal or a visual feedback to the driver that you need to stay out of that zone. If you go the one in the middle there on the bottom of the screen, you also have that pattern of striping, but we've also added some of the bollards to this. You've seen them on Winchester, the short green stubby bollards. You'll see those as well as some what we call zebras, those little diagonal ovals. They're kind of little round humps there to where if they were to get off the travel way, not only would they potentially take out one of the delineators there as far as the bollards, but they would also hit these little bumps and it would make you would feel like you're running over something that's uncomfortable. So again, it's a deterrent to keep people from trespassing across this zone, which we want to keep them out of. And below that, there we go. This is something that the traffic engineering group have come up with, and what it is, it's a bunch of little different striping maneuvers. As you see, as you move down, the little ticks become closer and closer together. And so as you're coming down the street and you're approaching this, it's going to feel like visually that your speed is going faster and faster because those little ticks start getting closer and closer together. So the effect is it typically will slow most people down, feeling like they're going faster than they are. So these are the three different types of mechanisms that you'll see on the next plan when we scroll down. Okay, here's the top of the curve here. You'll see the S curve on top with the little buffer zones on both sides of the street. And they have those elements involved with them too, with the little bumps, as well as the bollards. And you'll see the little stripes with the little ticks too that get condensed down as you begin closer and closer to the curve, which makes you feel like you're going faster. Those delineators and those bollards will keep the people out of that little 4 to 5 foot area next to the curb where you can have bicyclists riding their bikes, or right now we have people walking there. So again, it provides a little bit more buffer for those people who are out there in the field from the traffic. Yeah, that's a good picture of it right there. As we move down through the center, You'll see there's a little break in some of the treatments. The bollards aren't there in the middle. You still need access to the driveways, of course. One of the suggestions that the local residents gave us earlier this week was to maybe reduce some of those bollards. As you can see, maybe in the top right there, there's 1, 2, 3, there's 4 bollards up above your cursor there, Gloissy. Yeah, right up in there, right in there. Yeah. So if they wanted to maybe park something, or if they had to put their trash cans out, or if UPS is dropping by or something, they may want a little bit more room for parking where it's not a curve, but it will still provide some protection to the cyclists and pedestrians, but maybe reduce a couple of these bollards. So we're going to take a look at that and see if that's a potential possibility with the traffic engineer. Can we move down a little bit, Gloissy? Thank you. And here's the bottom of the curve. Same kind of treatments. You'll see the bollards and the little, we call zebras, those little bumps around the corners. Again, trying to keep the people in their travel lane. As you probably well know, as the people hit this corner with speed, they're crossing the center lane. They're on the edge. Most of the accidents that I spoke about earlier were coming from the right side of the screen to the left, and they took out the mailboxes here along the curb on the other side, flipped the cars and what have you. So there's been some accidents there. Another thing that we added here on the far right of your screen there's a little dot there right off the edge of the screen. That's a speed monitor there, speed feedback. So when you're coming down, it'll tell you what speed you're going. And for most part, that really helps people who are actually trying to follow the law and who want to follow the speed limit. Those people who really do not want to follow the speed limit, that doesn't necessarily help. But for most of us, that does just remind us, hey, you're coming into a curve. Here's the speed. You should maybe slow down or what have you. One thing that you don't see on these plans that the local residents would like us to consider is adding some speed humps to the bottom and top of this plan, and also to the center of the Dave's Avenue curve. And what that would be was a low level hump, not a bump, but a low level hump that would, again, make it very uncomfortable to hit these areas at a high speed. We can make them removable humps in case the residents don't like it or the city doesn't like it, or we could actually put in asphalt humps. Typically, the fire department is okay with humps, but not bumps, because the bumps are the more drastic measure and really can mess up the chassis of a vehicle. But for the most part, the humps will not hurt the suspension of a vehicle unless you're going 20 miles plus over the speed limit through there. So any questions on what I presented thus far on the S-curve?
How tall are the bollards?
I believe they're about 2.5, 3 feet. You've seen them on Winchester, haven't you? The new ones they put in there in Los Gatos and what have you?
Yeah, I just don't recall exactly those, but assuming that they get hit periodically, how expensive is it to maintain them or replace them?
They're pretty simple. They're kind of they just shear off. And we can replace those with staff ourselves. We don't have to bring in an outside consultant to do that. As far as cost, I don't have the exact number on those in front of me, but they're not that expensive. We'd probably have a dozen of them at City Hall just in case we needed to replace them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
What is the narrowest shoulder with this new configuration that the cyclists and pedestrians will be using?
What we're showing here is a 7-foot. It may narrow down there at the bottom of the curve where there's that. Yeah, it may narrow less than that. It looks like it pinches down a little bit here, but it shouldn't be any less than 5 feet. So I'm assuming that the narrowest would be 5 feet. What I would like to do in the future, if we could find the funds, is add the sidewalk along the left side of this corridor up here where people can actually walk up on the sidewalk with a curb to help them feel a bit safer rather than actually being out in the asphalt. But that'll take some money, and we'll have to look into some grant funding for that.
I'm wondering if cyclists, especially in this area, they often can be going at a good speed. They're going to want to take the lane versus
True.
ride on it.
That's a great point. They have every right to use that lane if they want to. I'm thinking more like perhaps some of the younger folks might be taking the lane on the right where they're not actually trying to drive a race bike down there. We've actually had a few accidents with the racing bikes coming down there too fast as well. So that's a good point.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Are these the finalized plans or are they still a work in progress?
They are the finalized plans, but it doesn't mean that we can't tweak them if you guys have some suggestions. We have not sent them out to bid yet.
Okay. And when do you anticipate doing that?
I would like to send these out with our annual street project, only
Okay.
because we can get maybe a economy of scale price break on having a contractor do both projects with different funds.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Oh, I'm really sorry, I thought of one more thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we do go the route of humps of some sort, I'd like to consider gaps in them or something so that cyclists don't, because those are very painful for cyclists. So if if there's a gap in the middle, they can easily scoot through that.
Okay, absolutely. We're glad to do that. That's a great point.
Thank you.
Well, great. Is that everything?
That's it. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your report. Really appreciate it.
And a good time to ask there about other things?
Let's talk about that at future agenda items. Thank you for asking. So when we come back to that, then we can ask them about, we just can't go into too much detail. Because it's not on the agenda. Okay, great. We'll move on. We'll be right there. Any committee and commission reports?
Yeah, I would like to make a little announcement.
Sure.
At last night at the VTA BPAC meeting and again this morning at the Los Gatos Streets Commission meeting, the VTA Highways Committee talked about their plan for an improvement project that encompasses Highway 17 from Lark through Highway 9. And they plan to completely redo the Highway 17, Highway 9 intersection. And they're gonna redo the bridge. It's gonna be much wider with a bicycle lane and a pedestrian lane. At least that's the current proposal. And they're gonna get rid of all the clover leaves. And so people will exit the highway or enter the highway. It'll be a straight shot up to Highway 9, and then there'll be stoplights. So there'll be 2 new stoplights.
Oh, wow.
Or people coming on and off the highway will, they'll be controlled.
Right.
So that's in the early planning stages, and I think their goal is to have it done by 2028.
Wow, thank
So
you.
it's,
Interesting. Are they gonna widen the freeway?
they're gonna add lanes, not, I forget the term they use, they're not real lanes, but it will be wider between Lark.
Sure, so
And-
it's not so,
Yeah,
not that broad.
It'll mainly will only help people, getting on or off Highway 9, they said.
okay,
And because there's still a bottleneck uphill from Highway 9, it's not gonna do a lot for the cut through problem.
right. Well, very interesting. Thank you. Anybody else? All right, then, moving on to future agenda items. I think Natalia, you may have one.
No, I don't.
You don't have any?
I have a question for Daryl,
Regarding,
future agenda items.
yes, go ahead.
Okay. Daryl, are there any updates about Highway 9 and Caltrans? We talked a lot
Yeah.
about last year.
The only real update I have on that is that the city council has taken that off their main project list at this time. So it is not a current goal item on their citywide list. So it's not something that we're pursuing at this point. We did speak with Caltrans multiple times this past year, and our project is at the bottom of their list and not anywhere near being funded. So at this point, it would be unfeasible for us to spend much more time on it until we come up with a different plan, unfortunately.
Is it only a financial issue?
Well, as far as funding, yeah, we don't have the funds to do it ourselves. And Caltrans, typically we go through them for any type of improvements in their corridor on their right of way. And according to them, it's not a priority for them. They have several other higher priorities at this time.
I guess another way to phrase my question is if we were to find a grant opportunity, could we still complete that project?
We sure could. We could go through a process of having to get our encroachment permits and what have you, and they would probably be okay with that. But as long as they didn't have any skin in the game, I'm not sure why they would have any problem with us doing that.
Okay. Well, maybe it's something we can discuss further at another meeting, options on how we could, in the future, move forward once the city decides it wants to pursue it again.
Yeah, and Chairperson, we
Plan of action.
we may want to, when you get your chance to speak with your council liaison, whoever that may be, ask them about that and if they wanted to re-engage and putting that back on a priority list or not, but.
That's a good idea, thank you.
Mhm.
I also noticed that the Highway 9 was cleaned out of the vegetations and trees. Was it done by the Caltrans or by the city?
That was actually a joint effort with the fire department and Caltrans with a little bit of our help. So there were some funds set aside for some clearing for fire purposes, and we were able to utilize them for that one side of the Highway 9. So they did a pretty good job of clearing out quite a bit of brush. And we've also, with our staff, including our city manager, has cleared out a ton of trash out of there. Once they pulled all those trees out, there was tires, bumpers, you name it. Beer cans from 30 years ago. There's a lot of trash down there we couldn't get to before that we've actually been clearing out. So we're making progress.
Yeah, it looks so much better and so much cleaner. I think it will, I don't think it's been done in previous years before.
Thank you. Yes, you're correct.
Good job, thank you for keeping our city clean. Any other future agenda items? I do have one thing I'd like to bring up. I think if you recall, at our last meeting, we had a resident speak to us or send in a letter. I think it was a written communication about connecting Rose Avenue and having a safe pedestrian walkway and bikeway for kids cutting through properties from Ridgecrest, Ridgeview, Greenwood, that part of the neighborhood through Rose to get to school. And so I thought that would be a good agenda item the future agenda item to discuss. How do we go about studying that and how do we go about actually making that happen? And that would also tie in with Commissioner Villawalla's interest in connecting the Bicknell neighborhood. So I would like to see some kind of proposal or discussion about how to move forward with those projects.
And was it this public comment that we received at the last meeting?
It would have been, I believe, yes.
She says, about sidewalks, or marked sidewalks on Rose Avenue.
Right, that
Yeah.
weren't necessarily walking on, avoiding highways, coming through various other ways. So I think that would be worthwhile exploring.
Okay.
How long it would take, whatever, but I think it's definitely something we should consider as a long-term plan for the safety of our children and pedestrians.
Okay, noted. Thank you.
Okay, great. And that is it. For anybody else?
Nothing, thank you.
All right, then, thank you so much, Gerald. I will now adjourn the meeting.
Good luck,
Thank you,
Kevin.
everybody. Have a good
Good
evening.
luck, yes. Thank you, everyone.